And there came a day unlike... Wait, no, that's been done. Who knows what evil lurks in... No, that is that other thing. What has yellow skin and rights? Forget it. You're listening to Panelology. Excelsi, oh, damn it.
Welcome to episode 243 of Panelology. I'm Alex.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Megan.
And Tim is the ghost of Christmas past.
Oh.
He is not with us this year because work is hell, capitalism sucks. The end.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
It sounds about right to the end of this year, yes.
Yes. We miss him and hope to have him back next year. Meanwhile, it has been since 2019, since last we discussed our favorite comics, so we have a decade to get through. These are our favorite comics of the 2020s, right? Like, that's how time has passed.
Feels that way.
A quick how is everybody before we get into it. How is everybody?
Yep.
Did you know
2020.
It's 6 days until Christmas? Holy shit.
I was going to say, do you know there's only 12 days left in this year? Yay.
Yeah.
Do you know that because I've been stress buying all year long, I have had Christmas for everybody other than like 2 people in my house for almost a year?
That's amazing.
It's like,
well, for like half a year.
Remember when we thought 2018 and 2019 were bad years?
Oh my god, 2016. I was thinking about, I have like so many posts about 2016 being horrible, and I'm like...
Exactly.
Yeah. 2016, to be fair, we saw a lot of death in 2016. It was a very weird, strange year.
Yeah.
2017, 2018, 2019, not as great or not as bad.
Right.
But yeah, like, I will actually give 2016, it was a weird, bad year.
Yeah. And then this happened.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
Can you guys imagine doing this podcast without the world getting progressively worse?
Are we the reason this world got progressively worse?
I mean,
no, Donald Trump is.
It's true. That's true. That's fair and true. Not
Alex
fake
is like,
news.
I am not feeding into this bit.
I am participating in my own way, which is optimism. God damn it, optimism.
Love it.
What doesn't kill us makes us stranger.
That's for damn sure.
You know it's bad when I'm quoting the Joker.
And if you're Alex, it makes it weirder. So that's...
Yeah, I do.
There it is.
All right. Honorable mentions. We're going to go through these quickly.
Whoa. Okay.
All right.
Meg, hit me with yours.
So if I remember correctly, because I said this at 1:30 a.m., I said Animorphs and Unstoppable Wasp novel.
Yes, so The Unstoppable Wasp Built on Hope is the full title.
Which I forgot came out this year. Thankfully went through what I've read this year. It is a novelization that kind of picks up where the comic leaves off. It is very good. I wish they had done it in comic form, but it is... it's about her learning more about her mom.
Cool.
And kind of, again, just that whole found family and dealing with friends who know you've cracked once and don't want you to do that again. And I highly recommend it. If you like Unstoppable Wasp, I think it does great in the same vein. Just in novel form.
Cool. And Animorphs, The Invasion, the graphic novel.
Yeah, this is, I mean, as you know, we love Animorphs. This came out, I think it is a wonderful adaptation, and that is not because I'm biased, because I think Chris Grine is like one of the best people in the world right now, but he is. Aww. And if you're not following him on Twitter, I highly recommend it for the sole reason of Visor 3 in hats. But yeah, he is, I think, just finished inking the second, maybe just finished coloring. I don't remember where he is on the second one, but I'm very, very excited for that. This one, it was great 90s nostalgia, and I'm very quick to jump when people have comments against it. So, big fan.
It is excellent. I will affirm that. Brian,
Yes, sir.
speaking of animal fiction, sort of, Animosity.
So this series wrapped up this year, and I know we talked about the first trade on one of our live shows, and yeah, Marguerite Bennett was the writer, and Elton Tomasi was the artist on this, and this was just a really really cool kind of uh, story that ran its story and didn't try to keep going past where it should have. It was just, I mean, I just really enjoyed everything about this world building that they did in this.
How about Punchline?
I mentioned this when it came out. So Punchline, I'm talking about the one shot, but specifically just about the character in general that came out this year, right? And I've mentioned this on individual episodes of the show, but one of the things I was super super happy to see with this was I was absolutely terrified we were going to get new Harley Quinn with this. And I mean, there's obvious comparisons you can still make, but they have taken this character in such a different direction. Um, there was nothing about this character that had any of the problems that Harley's origin had, right? Um, and I just really, really like how deftly they handled the introduction of this character without making her seem repetitive.
I think this is also a good place to point out that while this year has been difficult for the comics industry, sort of toe to tip, the quality of comics that has come out this year is insane. And I say that here because I've just realized this is the highest any of us have placed anything in Tynan's Batman run. This will be the first year that there is no Batman in any of our lists.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And I'll probably reiterate this sentiment when we get to my honorable mentions, because Jesus, I cannot believe that some of these did not actually hit my top 10. Anyway, Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Brian, is your third honorable mention.
Yeah, and this is kind of true of all of them that came out. These are all one shots, and I think what I liked about this, and the reason I wanted to mention them, was they did what they were trying to do very, very well, right? I mean, you have to go into this knowing that these are, one shots, Elseworld type tales, one-off tales, not continuity. But what I really, really like that they did was in telling these, they didn't just use their shtick that they were promoting these as, which is, it's classic stories where something, where they lose instead of win at the end, and end it there. They always used that as the jumping off point to do something completely different and unexpected. And kind of actually having that follow through, I think, is what makes these a bit unique and really good at what they were trying to do.
Jen.
Me.
Ghosted in L.A.
Oh my god, this book, it was so hard for me to not include it in the top 10 of my books because it was just so good and so fun and such a romp. It's such a romp. I love everything about all the ghostliness and musiciness and artiness and being a freshman at college aloneness. It's just a really fun, good, happy, weird book. And I love it.
Queer ghost romance.
Queer ghost romance, yeah. How can you not?
I'm glad to hear you mention it again because I definitely bought the first volume after last year and have the second volume. Haven't read any of it yet. Was like, there's so many things that I knew would automatically be in my list that I was like, I know if I read this, I'll love it, but I'm not ready to dive in yet. So I'm really glad to hear it's still great.
Like,
still so
I
good.
Can't add something else to my list. I have to try and choose from, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
I told Meg earlier this week, I've got 3 books I need to read, and her response was, why are you making this harder on yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
That was the easy part for me, was like, if I haven't read all of it, just it drops. It drops.
Yeah.
But there are so many
That's
good
fair.
ones that I had to drop because of that.
Same.
How about The Last God?
Oh my god, this book is so I honestly, it's on my list because it's so pretty
Yeah.
and gross at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I this easily could have.
Oh
this,
yeah.
This was in the top 20 narrowing downs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a real obvious like switch in it that you see coming, but you don't care because everything is beautiful and all these characters are fucked up. They're foobar, and I love them, and I hate not reading it now.
Yeah, Alex, you mentioned something on our last episode that I think this one actually applies. This is coming from DC,
Mm-hmm.
which this probably feels more like an old Vertigo book to me.
Yeah.
Right?
This is
Yeah.
so not like mainline DC
No.
at all.
No.
I did cut that entire conversation because it went nowhere and we ran for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
But it's a valid point and I think
Yeah.
stands. Just if you're listening and you're like, I don't remember that, there's a reason.
Yeah, we did kind of ramble a bit and then didn't go
Yeah.
anywhere, so that makes sense.
Thank you, Brian, for pretending I wasn't the only one rambling in that. Superman smashes the Klan, Jen.
This book.
Oh.
This book's so good and so important and like I don't think that we really understood how important it was for 2020 while we were reading it.
No, it's one of a couple of books that just feel ahead of the time in a way that is so conscious of the time, I think, because the thing all of those books have in common, I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of Bitterroot, I'm thinking of a couple of other things. They're by creators of color. They're people who live these lives and see these in ways that we as white folks do not.
Correct.
Well, and what's so specifically crazy about this one is that, it's retelling a radio drama that came out in, what was it, like the mid 40s, right?
Yeah.
And yet somehow is still so relevant.
Weird. It's almost like everything is a circle. But I don't know. It was just really good. And I think it would have been really easy to turn the little boy who's kind of a villain in it, I think it would have been really easy to just make him a total prick asshole, and it would have been warranted because so many people make these decisions and they're awful people. You're just a bad person if you make this decision. You just are. But this kid hasn't been given the chance to not make that decision, and they show that, and he kind of gets better toward the end. We have sympathy for him.
Yeah.
And I hate having sympathy for him, but I also understand it.
But we also see him against, say, his uncle, who you have no sympathy for. You see the difference.
And that's what I mean by, like, he hasn't had an option to not make that decision.
Right.
And you see where this mentality comes from. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, now my turn. Heist, or How to Steal a Planet. This is a Vault book. The title alone, which you are all giggling at, is what sold me on this book in the first place.
Fair.
It is exactly what it says on the tin, but it is executed so well. The short version is there's this guy who accidentally helped a corporation seize control of an entire planet. And he is doing his damnedest to fuck over that corporation because they are terrible and get the planet back, partly because it's the right thing to do and mostly because he's tired of everyone hating him. He gets together a team. They are all just the worst in different ways, and he has to trust them and knows he shouldn't. And one of the things this book does that I think the reason it's on my honorable mentions list is it sticks the landing so incredibly well. You kind of know the beats the book will take, but it always finds the interesting version of those beats. Its supporting cast, one character in particular, and I'm not going to say who because spoilers, its supporting cast is so clever and so likable despite being untrustworthy. And like everyone kind of gets theirs and gets what they deserve in the most satisfying ways. Suicide Squad, I'm not going to talk at length about because we will talk about it more later. But the fact that this is only an honorable mention for me, again, this year was wild. And Something is Killing the Children, ditto. That this is only an honorable mention, wild. And we'll talk about more in a few minutes.
So wild.
All right. Anything before we jump into our number 10 picks? I will note, as usual, Jen's list is not rated.
Well, it's Jen's list. That's how
Some
it
things
works.
never change.
Yes. As is our tradition, Jen's list is unranked.
Therefore, making it very hard for Alex to do his math.
No, actually, I have worked your lack of rankings into the equation, and it all balances still.
Actually, in some ways, it makes it easier because then he can choose the order that he wants them to be.
There you go.
Well, here is how I've done that this year. Jen, where you have named something on someone else's list, I have slotted you in the same place where someone else is talking about that book.
Yeah.
I like it.
So we're talking about things together for the most part.
I like it.
It's really cool.
Yeah. which brings me to Folklords, which is
Oh my
Meg's
gosh.
number 10 pick and Jen's number 5.5 pick, statistically.
Fair. You want to start, or you want me to
No,
start?
you go ahead. Yeah.
I don't think I understand this book, but I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna just phrase it that way. I hope
I will
it gets
agree.
more.
Yes. Oh my god. I need more. I need more so bad.
Like, what I really like is at the end of each issue, the map increases. And I feel like it's like a snippet of the story. I mean, obviously, at the end of the first, or at the end of the volume, it's very clearly just snippets. But there are storylines that I'm like, no, I need more.
Yeah. This book feels so much like an indie video game.
Yes.
And I love it.
I love the idea of turning a certain age and you have to go on a quest.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of do that.
This is true.
You turn
I was
18,
like-
go off to college and be a human being for the first time in the world.
See, I was thinking
And some of
Mormons.
you will return home.
Some of you will
This
fail
is
your
so
quest.
true.
All of you will learn that society has lied to you for your entire childhood about how the world works.
You're
is also
not
true.
wrong.
I guess there are also forbidden paths in IRL life too. Just like there are in this, like,
Yeah.
if you choose to figure out the truth about the Folklords, you might die. They might just kill you in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Or declare it a year with no quests. So,
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
2020. Oh my god.
Oh my god, it is.
Oh my god.
Shit.
2020's quest line is Get Out Alive.
Yeah.
Almost there. 12 more days.
We got this. We got this. You got this. If you're listening, you got this.
You do.
Yeah, you can do it. Wonder Twins, Brian.
Oh, well, first of all, my contractually obligated Mark Russell book.
Yes. And we actually will talk about this a little bit more later on too, but
Okay.
if you want to hit high notes.
Yeah, so Mark Russell, Stephanie Byrne, and Mike Norton were artists on this, and like we've talked, we've done an interview with Mark Russell on this show. We've talked about many of his books, and this is just a absolutely wonderful example of just how great he does satire and commentary. And it's wonderful.
I don't know how I forgot to put this on my list.
I don't either.
I don't either.
I'm upset.
I don't either.
You
Jump
were
in, Jen.
foiled.
Jump in.
You were foiled by my enemy this year, recency bias.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's
exactly it.
It's also the rare miniseries that, because it was announced as 6 issues and then extended,
Yeah.
has qualified twice.
Yeah.
Sarah and the Royal Stars is my number 10 pick. This is another Vault series, written by John Suey, art by Audrey Mock, colors by Raul Angulo, and letters by Jim Campbell. This is just some really great fantasy world building and character building. It is set in sort of a Persia-inspired fantasy world that is centered around this kingdom where the women through the family line start having visions and going on this quest and never come back. And Sarah starts having the same visions that her mother had and goes out and finds the living embodiments of stars, of constellations, living in the world, and it is up to her basically to save the world. Things that I think separate it from some other fantasy, high fantasy style stories is it's very bright. The world is very, very colorful, very lived in, without being run down. The magical, mythical beings are basically just other people who are on this journey with Sarah. She gets a chance to find family members and reunite with family members in very satisfying ways, while also sort of building this found family of these, again, basically mythical beings who need her as much as she needs them. It's just great world building and storytelling, and very different, I think, than anything that's out there, or a lot of things that are out there. It's high stakes without feeling like constant impending doom.
Who published it?
Vault.
Okay.
Do we have a count of how many Vault books are on your list, Alex?
10.
Actually, that's the only one in the top 10.
Okay,
and I've got the
what?
one honorable mention.
Okay, all right.
Mm.
Yeah.
But we could have easily done a Vault top 10.
That is a
Yes.
doable thing. Yes.
Well, there's one Vault book that would have been on the list, but its last issue got bumped to 2021 because
Right.
of delays.
Oh
So
no.
more next year. On to the round of 9. Brian,
Was this a surprise for you to see this?
that you included this?
Yeah.
In that I forget that it exists? No. Or yes, because I haven't read it yet, despite how
Okay.
many times you and Jen have told me to.
For half
But
a
upon
second,
seeing it and remembering that it exists, no.
Okay.
before you said remembering it exists, I thought you were going to say Immortal Hulk, because I haven't heard Brian talk about Immortal Hulk in a year.
Because Brian stays 2 issues behind on Immortal Hulk for reasons.
Brian actively forces me to summarize every issue in one sentence by myself.
It's like, oh wait, no, that'll catch me up. I can't read that one this week. No, my number 9 is Reaver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is Justin Jordan. Art is Nico Einrichen on this latest arc, and Rebecca Isaacs was the first arc of this. This book is just insanely good. We don't talk about it a lot, but specifically this arc focuses on the 2 characters that I probably enjoy the most, the crazy cannibal girl and Essenbreaker, the big old like kind of moody stoic fighter guy, right? God, it's just incredibly good. If you want fantasy that is, I would call it middle fantasy. It's not quite low fantasy, but it's definitely not high fantasy either. Shut up. I see you smirking, Jen, laughing at my wording.
I'm imagining like litmus paper, like
It's
the
pH
kind that actually
balanced, okay?
exactly like fantasy little p capital H fantasy test strips.
This is like a 6. It's a little bit towards low fantasy, but not quite. Anyway, but yeah.
Low fantasy.
What is Conan the Barbarian is low fantasy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there
Just
you
like
go.
I don't understand these.
Tarzan the Smooth Boy is low
Okay.
fantasy.
There you go.
I gotcha now. Okay.
Real low fantasy.
Cannot recommend enough going out and picking this up and trying it out. Insanely good.
My number 9 pick, Miles Morales Spider-Man. This is Saladin Ahmed's run continued. Jen is nodding. I know this was one she was considering for her list too, because I saw the short list.
Yep. The short list of 30 books.
Art is anchored by Javier Garrón and Carmen Carnero, with several other artists coming in. Colorist is David Curiel, and letterer is Corey Pettit. This is kind of exactly the Miles book I needed and wanted after Brian Bendis moved from Marvel to DC. Saladin Ahmed writes teenagers so well, which I'm sure is partly because he has twins who he raises and is around all the time and hears actual kids speak. But he spends most of this year's issues of this arc building out Miles and his family and his relation to family, and really grounding it in those relationships, and then using those as a way to answer the big questions that were left after Secret Wars about how did Miles come from the Ultimate Universe here? Why do some people remember some things and not others? Who is Earth 616's Miles Morales, and how does he fit into all of this? That we kind of saw beginnings to those answers in Bendis' Spider-Man too. Like, all these big ideas and the effects of Outlawed, and keeps them so grounded and personal. It's just great Miles Morales. If you've watched Into the Spider-Verse, if you've played the PS5 game, you need to be reading this book. Once again, Jen and Meg have the same pick here. Meg's number 9 pick and Jen's number 5.5 pick, Basket Full of Heads.
Oh, man, I struggled not putting this on my list.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It
It really is.
I love the whole horror concept, and I haven't read a ton of these in this
Hill House.
imprint, I guess. But the ones that I have read all have really strong female characters,
Mm-hmm.
and that is still strangely like a trope we're trying to turn over in horror. So I think that's why this one still stuck with me so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked about this was it wasn't heavy. Like there wasn't this constant, like what I think of is like Saw, where it's like constant tension the whole time and all of this. Like there were times when it opened up and breathed a lot. And
Yeah.
And even in the tense moments, it has a sense of humor.
Yep.
Definitely.
Exactly, yeah.
And this was the most Stephen King that I think that Joe Hill has ever been.
Agreed.
That's fair.
But I will always stand by my guns and say that Joe Hill knows how to write an ending.
This is true.
Seconded, thirded. Motion
Are
carries?
you implying something with that statement, Jim?
No, I'm outright saying poor Stephen King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has an issue with endings.
And I do like Joe Hill's shorter stuff. I'm not as big of a fan of his longer stuff. But like, I don't know. I like him concise and quick and to the point. I have a collection of his short stories that I need to finish. So
Indeed. So good.
very excited that more Lock and Key is coming out too. I need to catch up on it, but yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, they just announced seasons 2 and 3 of the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't wait.
For my life to be over.
Wait, what?
Isn't that a song from a 90s
I
teen
don't
drama?
want to wait.
Oh,
Oh,
I
Dawson's
did
Creek,
not
got it.
watch a lot of 90s teen dramas.
Shocking.
I watched
everyone.
the fuck out of Dawson's Creek.
Of
Actually,
course
that is a
you
little
did.
surprising. You love Riverdale as much as I do, so you would think 90s teen stuff would be up your alley in a way.
For real.
I think this is just an even more confusing and damning commentary on my sensibilities. I have little to no interest in 90s teen dramas, but still love Riverdale
I
as much as
literally
you do.
thought that people your age, like watching Dawson's Creek, was a requirement to get into theater.
No.
I was busy watching Get
No.
Smart and
What?
Adam West Batman.
Just for that drama type. Yeah.
Alex, why were you born a 70-year-old man? Like,
I've
what?
never made it a secret that I am Benjamin Buttoning
true.
through life.
This is very true.
Alex, you should go back and watch the OC.
I'll watch it with you because I
Ah.
never finished it.
We can
That being
start
said-
a podcast.
I'm like,
no.
oh no, I'm starting one on Supernatural. I can't.
Oh, good Lord. The good news is you got years of content there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 6.5 years.
Wow.
So this is an appropriate place for us to take a quick intermission. As is our standard practice, I asked everyone, hey, give me your favorite single issues or one-shots from this year.
I was
the
about to
only
say
one
this
who
is a
have any,
short
but I'm
intermission.
going to talk about them anyway.
Well, I kind of
I
included.
have one if you need.
Yeah, I told Al. I included mine in my. That's
forgot.
kind of what my honorable mentions ended up being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also know that others on the call will have things to add to each of these.
Yeah.
So I don't mind mentioning them here. Suicide Squad number 7 is my first one. This is the introduction of Live Shot. Which I think is, if you could take this whole run and sort of encapsulate it in an issue, the relationship between Floyd and Zoe.
Yeah.
Zoe's wanting to be like him but better, and his wanting her to be better. The way that the revolutionaries have sort of become a team with at least the remaining members of the Suicide Squad at this point, and think of them as friends, even if... I mean, that line in this issue still gets me, the sort of, he doesn't think he has friends, but he's wrong.
Yep.
As they save Zoe.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way, if you have this issue, hold on to it, because at some point, Live Shot is going to be a thing, and this will be the first appearance. So, yeah.
Also, just Suicide Squad's such a good book. And
Yeah, I think so, too.
all right, round of 8. Brian,
Yeah.
hit me with that Young Justice.
Man, so first of all, the writer in comics with the undisputably the best name, Brian B. But
the
no,
B stands for biased in this Brian B's case.
Young Justice, it's Brian Michael Bendis, and then the last part of this, David Walker also co-wrote. Art was mostly it was John Timms, Michael Avon Oming, and Scott Godlewski. But this was just a really good, it may have been the best. Well, I not may have been. This was the best DC teen book this year.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I will co-sign that.
How they brought them back together was well done. the kind of some of the explanations for where people went, how they allowed it to kind of organically tie into the larger DC universe was well done, I thought. Like
Yes.
just everything about and surrounding this book was so good, and it was just fun. Jenny Hex, it may be my favorite character this year.
Which, if we actually were recording this episode on the last day of this year,
Yeah,
the Jenny Hex one-shot would be something we'd be talking about, no question.
almost certainly. Yeah.
That comes out on December 29th.
Yeah.
So this is your reminder to read it.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. Meg,
Yes.
your number 8 pick, which we'll also be talking about again a little later in the show, is The Low, Low Woods.
Yeah, again, another of the Hill imprint series. I don't even know where to start with this one again. Like, we talked about it a good bit in the Spooktacular, and it's just a weird form of horror that I feel like everybody should experience. I'm listening to a podcast that reminded me that Suspiria existed. Like, was a movie that came out a couple of years ago that feels like both of them came out back in the 70s, and I feel like it's a similar vibe. I don't know, just like women. Like, women creating horror. It's great.
So, based on that, I'm guessing this is low horror.
Sure. There is some low magic in it. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I like worlds that seem very much like the real world, and then you're like, wait, did she just talk about how every town has like a witch? Like an actual witch? Not like someone who like can bring back the dead kind of witch?
Yeah. So like real world adjacent, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or where it's like, yeah, we all kind of know that there are like actual monsters in the woods. Like, we just don't talk about it. What?
Women lose time, and
Yes.
that's a normal fact of our town, which is literally,
Always
by
on
the way,
fire.
always on fire.
Always on fire.
Which again, I am amazed is a real thing.
This is such a good book. If you have a lot of rage that you just kind of want to direct into a book, I think this helps. Actually, it might make your rage a little bit worse.
It
I
depends
don't know
on what
which
that
ones-
rage is, yeah.
That's true. But yeah, I think this is it's an amazing book.
My number 8 pick is Farmhand, returning from my list last year. If anything, this one may be a little low because of recency bias. Like, the first arc of this the third arc of this ended much earlier this year. And it did such a great job of giving us answers and history about what's going on and explaining things, but still leaving enough mystery to leave questions. And it pushes Zeke, its main character, into a place where he could easily become a villain in his own sort of story. I don't think that necessarily is what will happen, but it leaves him in a place where sort of he could go anywhere and do anything. It's the third arc out of 5, so it's a lot of, all right, time to just kind of break everything and see how the pieces come back together.
So they do have an endpoint in mind. That's good to know.
Yeah, this was always written as a, I think, 25-issue series.
Cool.
It's Rob Galori writing and drawing. The colorist is Taylor Wells, and the letterer is Cody Chamberlain. This is absolutely one of my favorite books, just hands down. I always get excited when a new arc gets solicited.
This is one of those books that you had us read the first trade for, and at some point I will. It is on my list of things that probably once it's done, I will have to go back and read the whole thing.
Yeah, this, as a reminder, if you haven't heard last year's episode, or just it's been a minute since we've talked about it because publishing schedules have been weird this year. This is about a man named Zeke who moves back to his hometown, where his father is a farmer who grows replacement body parts, literally harvests organs, and the organs start transforming people, flowers sprout off of them, and they kind of become, not quite zombies, they have more faculty than that, but they become sort of hive-minded and driven by urges that are not their own.
Just got to call horticulture and they'll be fine.
Jen,
Me.
our last number 8, Afterlift. Well, 5.5.
Yeah.
Afterlift.
This is Chip Zdarsky in his Comixology original book. And it's about death and accepting death. And it's beautiful and funny and weird and kind of sexy. And
Well, okay, you said Chip Zdarsky.
I was about to say I'm just describing Chip now.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Chip, please don't listen to this. Anyway.
Chip, please do.
Chip, if you're listening now, it's too late. Keep going.
There's always a chance, okay? But I don't know, I just really loved this book, and I really loved the positive light that it showed death in.
Cool.
And just added it to my Comixology. Thank you very much.
It's so good.
If I had read one more book, it would have been this one, but I had to stop because there was already too much Chip on my short list.
That's fair.
And you
No
didn't
such
want to
thing.
you didn't want to have a chip on your shoulder?
We all already do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I already know at least one book of his that's going to be on my list for next year.
Yeah. Adventure Man. This is Brian and Meg both in their number 7 pick.
All right.
Very nice.
Good positioning, Meg. I like it.
You as
Yeah.
well. You as well.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate it because it makes my job so much easier when people put the same books in the same spot.
Yeah, so this is Matt Fraction writing a brand new series. Terry Dodson is doing the art. This is such a breath of fresh air for a like superhero type comic, but not exactly superhero.
Well, it's so pulpy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is why I love it.
Very much so. I love the whole. Not only is it like a mystery in that it's like a pulpy mystery would be, but there's kind of a mystery about exactly how the protagonist fits in with this whole story, right? Just incredibly good. Not to mention the protagonist is just a wonderful, wonderful character.
Oh,
So
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Such a big crush.
Like, there you go.
She's so gorgeous.
Not surprised by this. This
Nope,
is
not
one
at
of
all.
the books that I really needled Meg to get
Yeah.
to before we recorded.
Yeah.
Alex was like, you should get this book like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, okay, cool. And then this week he's like, get it. And then he's like, but it's only in hardback. And I was like, Alex, I'm not. And so I got it on Comixology. I will get an actual
Yeah.
physical copy of it because I want to see this art. Like, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
My
And
copy of the hardcover came in.
yes.
I knew it was oversized, so I figured it was going to be like one of those 12-issue Marvel. It is
Oh.
Marvel Treasury edition size, and as much as I love the Dodson's art,
Yeah.
I am not complaining.
No.
No, yeah, that's very true.
The other thing I think this does really, really well is how it handles the supporting cast.
Mhm.
It would be super easy for her son to be an annoying character in some books.
He's so good, though.
I know, and I like how they created this diverse cast in her family very organically, like by how they explain, how this family came together. So good. So good.
Yeah, I like it. I like the whole they have to get together for Friday dinner.
Yep.
And they have to, like, if you're quiet, you're going to get called out. Like, you need to participate. Like, family is very, very important to the story. And also on top of all that, weird shit happens and they don't like try to tell her that she's crazy or that it's all in her head or anything like that. They're like, okay, we're gonna get you help because like your clothes are tattered and you're all like cut up. But yeah, keep
and
talking.
suddenly
What?
a foot taller.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we deal with this? Like, is there
Exactly,
response? Yeah. Damn, that's good.
Jin,
Me again. Ooh.
you again. Every round it comes back around to you.
And yet we're always shocked.
Tell me about Hawkeye Freefall.
Oh,
Mm.
y'all, this book, though. This book, Hawkeye is a mess. He's just a mess. Every part of him is a mess.
Mhm.
And this showcases that so perfectly. So perfectly.
Yeah.
And every bit of it was just fun. It was just fun. And occasionally sad. And weird. And just fun. Okay?
I love the number of ways that Matthew Rosenberg makes I almost said Chip Zdarsky, makes
well,
Clint Barton his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Which,
Like, the number of literal ways on the page.
Like,
Yeah.
in some ways, it is the best example of that we may have ever seen.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really feel like this is the actual successor to Matt Fraction's Hawkeye.
I think that's valid. Like, the Kelly Thompson run is very much a follow-up to the Kate piece of that.
Yeah,
And this is the follow-up to the Clint
Yeah.
side.
absolutely.
Also, if you have not gone on the internet and seen all the pictures of Clint and Kate and Pizza Dog from
I love
shooting
it
the
so
TV show.
much.
Mm-hmm.
It like heals my heart a little bit every time I see one of those.
Yeah. Daredevil. This is why I had Chip Zdarsky on the brain. We will talk about this more later. So I'm going to take this opportunity to pivot into my second pick for favorite one-shots of the year, which is probably my favorite single issue of anything this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the Daredevil Annual.
Oh yeah.
This book, and I know we try not to get too hard into spoilers on our top 10 episodes. There's not a way to talk about this issue without spoilers, so I'm going to keep this as quick as possible, jump forward like a minute. The joke that I always make about someone needs to just make Mike Murdock a real person, Chip not only has made good on, but has made, like, so sad and so full of emotion. And Mike is awful, but you understand why he's awful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And as part of the run as a whole, like, he becomes this necessary piece of the puzzle to keep the story going.
Yeah. Like, from a character study and, like, motivation standpoint, like, everything you need is in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a clever solution. It's a great issue. Art team on here is Manuel Garcia, LeBeau Underwood, and Chris Mooneyham. Colorist is Rochelle Rosenberg. Letterer is Clayton Cowles. And it's just, like, I'd say one of the all-time great issues of comics.
I mean, you talking about this is what sold Tim and I to start Daredevil. So
I
Yes.
can't disagree with you, Alex.
It's so good.
All right. Round 6.
Woohoo!
I will go first this time. Bitterroot. It's back. It is bigger and better than ever. We see everything that's been going on in Harlem sort of spill up and down the East Coast. So this is a book set during the Harlem Renaissance about a family of demon hunters. Its main cast is all black. And this is another one of those books we mentioned earlier that really feels clued into just the world now.
Yeah. Like, appropriate, right? Would be
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
The demons they fight are based in trauma and based in hate. And the thing the main characters realize they have to do in the arc that ended this year is to ever get ahead of these demons, start separating trauma from hate. The demons we see in the first arc are very much demons that are a metaphor for racism. And the demons we see in this arc are more trauma based and can come from anyone. And sort of overtake anyone. It's just some great storytelling. The creative team is David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Green. Sanford Green and Rico Renzi are colorists, and Clayton Cowles is the letterer. And it's a gorgeous book. I love Green's art style and Green and Renzi's colors. This is another one that, like, this arc wrapped up earlier in this year. Otherwise, it might have been a little higher. But it's just a fantastic read. I cannot recommend it enough. And it's another one of those comics with a TV show option that I really hope becomes reality, because I think it would be great.
this is one, fingers crossed, I will hopefully get caught up on. Like, I own all of it.
Yeah.
Like Farmhands, I own all of Farmhands.
Mhm.
But, reading in 2020 is a thing. And
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing.
Mm-mm.
But
Yeah.
I'm very excited because all of this is up my alley.
Yeah, like I could keep going and get into things like the design and the period costume and the sort of steampunk weapon designs, but we'd be here too long and need to move on. So just go read it. It's good. Hey, Meg.
Yes.
The hardest pivot I think I've ever done on this show. Tell me about Sex Criminals.
Okay.
Hey.
Sex Criminals is done. I haven't read the one shot yet. I did save that. Sex Criminals is, I think, one of the first comics that I got into. So it was a little bittersweet to finally wrap it all up. If you don't know anything about Sex Criminals, it is essentially these people who, when they orgasm, they stop time. And they decide that because they can do that, why not rob some banks? And it sounds really light and fun. And then suddenly it takes this like really great journey through mental health and battling mental health issues while being in relationships. And they took a long break between the last trade and this trade, and I had no idea where it was going to go. And so some of these issues are really sad and really hard to read. They still have jokes, but they're still like, Alex got some yelling while I was reading, and that still wasn't even a fraction of the yelling that I did.
Alex expected the yelling and was frankly surprised by how little yelling.
That's how much at reading I needed to get done. I have very, very mixed feelings on the ending. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody. But I am so down to have a very long conversation with anybody once you finish this on my thoughts. Overall, loved it. Very, very like happy with this, but I think that that's a good sign of like if you have an ending that can be debated. Cool. Good job.
Yeah.
You have an ending that makes you want to call your therapist. Cool. Good job.
I don't see my therapist for 2 weeks. I don't need to be reading comics that makes me want to call my therapist.
Just text your therapist. So, have you read Sex Criminals?
But I do enjoy the fact that one of the things I love about Sex Criminals is the background stuff.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And the first issue is like in a library with all these books. There's some, great stores and stuff like that. And it's like one of those comics that I want to take pictures and send, panels to people and things like that. And it was really nice to, this is going to sound weird. It was really nice to have that urge again, because I don't have it with most comics, but I'm just like, this is funny and I want to share it. And then I have to be like, this is not going to be funny to someone who has not read Sex Criminals. So just put your penis away. That's all I got to say.
The more you know. Also, good advice if you are CD Projekt Red. Remember, we recorded this episode like a week and a half before it released. That was timely then. Who do I want to call on next? Brian.
Yes, sir.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, you knew this was coming up for me.
I did. I'm
yeah.
going to jump on this train too.
So this is Tom Taylor, and the artists on this were Bruno Redondo and Daniel Sampier. This was, I think I've said before, this is probably my favorite Suicide Squad ever. Suicide Squad, I have enjoyed before, but there's always just been that part of it that just felt a little bit wrong. And I know in some cases that was the point of it, right? Like you're never sure who the bad guy is. Is it Waller controlling them, or is it them, right? This being essentially like the end of the Suicide Squad is essentially what this run is. Let it do some things that were never, I don't think, possible before.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
Yeah. Like, we see some change, I was going to say some major changes to some characters. Clearly, Lawton is one of them, right? And he is one of those characters that I think has always suffered from kind of being tied in place.
Yeah.
And that his motivation was always that he wanted to do this so he could get free and, be with his daughter and, show her that, she can have a better life than what he had and all that. But because he was Deadshot and was a comic book character, he was stuck not ever being able to fulfill that. Right? And this took away that restraint. and clearly it's really good. That that story, as you mentioned earlier, super super good. I think in some ways it did the same thing for Harley. Like the fact that Suicide Squad is ending has freed that character to become something more than she was tied into being, right?
Yeah, and like we at this point know some of what's coming up in March, and that's 100% sort of the MO for the Harley Quinn book going forward, is moving her into this new place that ties into, I think, what we've seen her do more in Batman.
And we see that in, I was gonna say, we see that in Batman specifically this week even. But and in addition to that freeing of some of the traditional characters, we get this whole introduction of the Revolutionaries, which is an absolutely fantastic team.
Wink and Airy forever.
Absolute. Wink may be my favorite new character, period. Like in any book, just her attitude, and I mean, like her willingness to go, oh yeah, I can teleport. Okay, I'll just blink inside the Batmobile and steal it. Like, why not? Like by itself, that did it. Fantastic book. The courage to do what they did with Deadshot and like everything about it. Thank you, Tom, for this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Jen. One of the books that I have been like the most remiss in ever catching up on, Die.
Oh my God, Alex. Alex, oh my God.
I know. Every time I see it on one of your lists, I'm like, I am bad. I'm bad at comics.
So this book just continues to be depressing and gorgeous. It's the best D&D romp if you hate yourself.
Yeah.
If you just want to play a character who gets fucking shit on, this is your game.
I did basically play Clint Barton in my last game.
Yeah.
So
but it's less funny. It's less funny than that. It's more very much in the ouchies. But it's just so good, and it's just so pretty. And if you want just a fucking gorgeous book, this is it.
Yeah, and it's Stephanie Hans. God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah.
Insane.
How many volumes of this are out now?
3.
Yeah.
3 just came out this week.
Yeah.
Okay, because I knew I had one, and I knew I'd seen one recently. I was like, that is one that is on my list to catch up on, but so far behind.
Yep.
Yeah. This book focuses on 2 things, and that is world building and trauma building. So if those are your thing.
In equal measures, I would say. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Yes.
In my head, I was flipping a coin as you said world building, and would the next thing be trauma or butts?
It's trauma. This one doesn't really focus on butts as much, but there are some.
There are some
really good ones.
There's a Venn diagram for trauma, butts, and world building. The middle is sex criminals.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the middle is me, but yeah.
I thought you were going to say Jenna too. But yeah, you're not wrong on sex criminals.
Yep.
I actually, after talking about sex criminals, had a moment of, I thought I took a screenshot of a butt to send to Jenna and couldn't find it on my phone. It's a TikTok that I sent you. That's what it was.
Oh, okay. I haven't opened it yet. I saw it this morning and I'm like, I'll wait.
No, totally fair. When you need a good butt, take a look.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Also, someday we have to play the Die RPG.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Gillen just put out the revised rule set 1.3.
Oh, nice.
I'm down.
So good. It's an interesting RPG if you read it. Yeah.
Moving on to the round of 5.
Woo.
Captain Marvel. Gotta have some Kelly Thompson somewhere in here. And this is some of my favorite Kelly Thompson of all time. I had to go back and look and see which arcs actually came out this year, because again, weird publishing schedule.
Right.
We actually got the end of the last Avenger arc, where we see her take down and then team up with the Avengers. Take down in air quotes. We got the Empire arc, which introduced L'Oreal, who is still, I think, the best possible addition to Carol's world. And we're currently in this arc that revisits the future we saw in the Captain Marvel The End one-shot at the beginning of the year, where Captain Marvel is having to help her group of like survivor superhero friends take on a character who at first glance is very obviously Namor's son, and whose mother we recently learned is just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, that combination is like horrendous.
But everything about this book is great. Art teams have been Lee Garbett and Corey Smith and Adriano De Benedetto for most of this year. Colorists have been Tamara Bonvillain and Antonio Fabella, and letterer is Clayton Cowles, who has lettered like half of my list. It's just, if you like Captain Marvel at all, you should be reading this run. And even if you don't, maybe try it and it will change your mind.
I mean, it's Kelly Thompson.
Yeah.
Even I've started Captain Marvel because it's Kelly Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Thompson. Probably this is insane. Probably my favorite writer this year, and yet I don't have one of her books.
Same.
On my list.
I had the same thing.
That's how insane this year has been.
I was trying to force her Sabrina book on. I was like, I can do it. And Alex is like, Megan, the last issue comes out in January. It was like, no, damn it. Because I'm too behind on Captain Marvel, and Black Widow doesn't end.
Right.
Yeah, like, I think any of our short lists, you could have picked at random and still had a really solid list.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And like, there's no way for each of us not to have to leave something off we love.
Yep.
Which is why we do the combined list at the end of the episode.
It is.
Meg.
Oh no, that is a tone.
Gideon Falls.
Okay, so I am officially caught up on Gideon Falls. I caught up this morning.
Nice.
Because I was sitting there and I was thinking that because it ends next week. By the time this episode's released, it'll be done, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was looking and I was like, I think Volume 4 ended in 2020, so I could technically get away with reading just Volume 4. I read Volume 4 and I was like, I have to read Volume 5. Because Volume 4 feels like the start of the end game. And I was like, how do we have so much left? Like, what could possibly happen? Without, like, and also being worried that, like, they start Endgame and then something happens and it slows everything down. First of all, the main character who wears a mask, love it. In the year of our Lord 2020. Great. I think I finally understand why he wears a mask now. The smiling man is literally, I think, the thing I am most terrified of in this world. And he has only gotten scarier.
Oh no.
And it is...
Yeah, this is a book that I very consciously made a choice that it's going to have to finish before I read.
That's fair.
Because once I start, I'm not going to be able to
That's
stop.
fair. Because part of the thing, I didn't catch up on this for the Spooktacular because I started 4 and was like, oh, I just really want to go back and reread 1 through 3. And this time around, I was like, no, I understand enough of what's going on. I can power through this because I'm so excited about next week's issue and just... I'm ready to be done because I love this story. It's so fucking weird. The coloring of this is one of my favorite things because the red is just so creepy and like the only saturated color no matter what Gideon Falls you're in. And I'm just, things that seem so out there, I'm like, how do you wrap this up without losing any momentum? And I gotta tell you, I think that it's just done so well. And I can't wait for you guys to catch up because I am so excited to talk about this and all the little things that I'm sure I've missed. So yeah, I think I'm likely going to sit and reread all 5 before I read. Actually, I don't know. I am so excited about this last issue. And for most comics that end, I don't, like, I still haven't finished Wicked and Divine. Like, I don't want to acknowledge that they're over.
Meg!
So it's just like the fact that I'm so excited that this is coming to an end and I get answers and Bugs and the Smiling Man.
Oof.
I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Expect to see this on the Spooktacular.
Yes.
Yep.
So excited. I will yes.
Kill Lock. Jen, this is you.
This is the most beautiful book I have ever seen. Ever in my life.
It is gorgeous.
It's so pretty. And the little robots and the big robots are all so good, especially the fucking Murderbot. It's just so good. It feels like a fantasy book, but somehow it's about robots trying not to die.
Robots trying to be better people.
Well, some of them. Yeah.
Every time you talk about this book, I'm like, this is probably the book more than any other book that that when you talk about it, I'm like, I really want to read this and still have it.
Brian, you
And
fucking need
I don't
to.
know how.
This is so
I
your
know,
jam.
I know it is. I know
Brian
it
and
is.
I live in this constant struggle of trying to stay caught up with our current books because our lists are too goddamn big.
I know,
Yeah, no
but
kidding.
this book is worth just like fucking off on another book.
Yeah.
I promise. Find the book that you are just the least into, but you keep reading because it's
Yeah.
it's your weekly book. You have to read it. Just fuck off on that one and read Killock one week.
All right.
It's so good.
This is good advice.
It is.
This is good
it's
advice.
Sound and true.
All right, Brian,
Yeah,
your second Tom Taylor book in a row.
it is.
Deceased Unkillables.
And what's even more, so it's Tom Taylor, and the art on this is Carl Mostert. And what's super unusual is if we hadn't had the last, 5-6 issues of Suicide Squad, then Deceased Unkillables would have been my favorite Suicide Squad book of the year. No surprise that they're both written by Tom Taylor. Not to mention the other thing this has going for it is it's set in the Deceased universe, which we've talked about on many episodes about how much we like it. And this, in spite of not being super huge zombie fan people.
Yeah.
Um,
Which Tom Taylor has said publicly he is not either. And I think
Yeah.
that's so much of why this book works.
This really does focus on the criminal side of what happened to the criminals during this whole fall of the world thing, right? And not to mention we got Red Hood and Jim Gordon and that storyline, which was absolutely exquisite. This was, I think, where we learned that it wasn't kind of a fluke what happened with the first Deceased series.
Yeah.
That this world really did have legs, and that everything that's happening is going to be interesting. We're going to get the conclusion, and I'm sure it very likely will show up next year. But everything, this whole world could be included in this. But Unkillables was probably my best example this year.
When you say the conclusion, you mean of the current miniseries.
Of the current run, yeah. The current miniseries itself. But just absolutely fantastic. They're super super fast reads. As digital releases, they were kind of just easy to digest. And then the art and the covers were, if you pick up the print versions, are, beautiful. Like I just love holding them and leafing through them first without reading and then going back, and it's just amazing. I love it. Love everything about it. And like I said, the only other thing I want to mention is I actually picked this and then came across Suicide Squad again, going through my list, and I debated not putting both of them on here, but they're different examples, and I say they're different examples, but they're kind of the same, and that's why I struggled a little bit with it. And what I talked about with Suicide Squad about not having that limitation of always having to keep Suicide Squad intact, and therefore you were limited by what you could do. This didn't have that, and so for a time I thought it was going to be the best example of that. So I thought it was going to be a better Suicide Squad than Suicide Squad. And then we got these last 6-7 issues of Suicide Squad, and I was like, well, shit, now he's done it again. So yeah, just can't say enough. Super good. Everything.
All right. Another brief intermission for me to talk about a single issue, which is starting to feel self-indulgent, but fuck it.
Yeah, do it.
X-Men number 7. So I wanted to talk about this issue for a couple of reasons. One, it's legitimately, I think, one of my favorite issues of the year. And the issue that I think back on the most while reading other X-Men books that have come out since. I know we've mentioned it several times since it came out on regular episodes of the podcast.
quick reminder which issue this is.
So, first off, it's written by Jonathan Hickman. Artist is Lionel Francis Yu. Colorist is Sonny Go. And letterer is, once again, Clayton Cowles. This is the issue... This issue introduces, actually, a couple of big concepts. The biggest one is probably the trial by combat that mutants who were depowered through various means, mostly the Scarlet Witch, can use to stand against Apocalypse in combat. And so long as basically they never surrender to him, he will kill them so they can be revived by the Five and have their mutant powers again. And that contest, that ritual, which is really how the island treats it, is what everything else in this issue sort of hinges on. It opens up with a conversation between Cyclops and Wolverine, where you can tell they both have their own reservations and are handling it in different ways. Wolverine takes an approach that's a little more, I hate it, but we are part of something bigger, and I can't fight this without fighting Krakoa, and I'm not doing that. And Cyclops takes an approach that's more, but it's wrong, and I need to unpack that more myself. That leads him to go to Nightcrawler, and the rest of the issue kind of follows the two of them. And sort of the end idea of this issue, and this is something we haven't totally seen borne out yet, is Nightcrawler decides he needs to start a mutant religion. But a lot of ideas that are introduced in here we've seen echoed in other X books. We talked about a specific line in, I think, the last issue of Ten of Swords that called back to this. I think at the same time it's one of the most fruitful issues of the series, but also the best encapsulation of what Dawn of X and this whole era is. Like, if you needed to read one issue to understand sort of this line as a whole, this is the one I would hand you.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And with that said, Brian,
Yeah.
Marauders.
Man. You know I had to have Marauders on here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Jerry. All of these were exceptions during Ten of Swords because the writers changed around issues and combined and not combined, collaborated. That's the word when you write together. Yeah.
They Voltron?
They combined it into new people, and
Yeah.
you know.
They Voltroned to make Ten of Swords.
Sure, that works. I mean, kind of. Maybe that's a mutant power, and that's how it happened. I don't know.
You're literally describing mutant circuits, but go on.
Jerry Duggan. The art on this was Stefano Caselli and Matteo Lolli. But this, I think, of all of the X books, just encapsulated the most what I loved about the whole Marvel X line now. The whole mutant line. All of Krakoa, kind of, you get the whole picture of what it is Krakoa is standing for and trying to do. You get a lot in this particular series about their relation to the rest of the world and how different parts of the world are responding to that in, the Hellfire Club, and where they have, some nations that have recognized them as a nation state and are willing to deal with them and that kind of thing. And then you get other nations who are not, and so they have kind of the black market side of the Marauders that are dealing with the Hellfire Club, which is essentially what, if you at its base, is what the Marauders are, and yet at the same time are pulling mutants out of those places and smuggling them back to Krakoa. So that by itself would be enough. And yet, on top of that, we get Duggan giving us 100% his type of sense of humor in Emma and Kate and Sebastian Shaw, and that whole line of relationships and interpersonal things going on, and everything about it is just absolutely fantastic.
Agreed.
Marauders just barely squeaked off of my list. Just barely.
Like, just Emma in this book by herself would just about put it on my list.
Yeah, like Emma, I think, this is true of Kate too, but Emma, I think, is maybe the character who has sort of shown the most in Dawn of X.
Yep. I would not disagree with that.
SHONE, not
Yes.
shown as in to show.
I mean, it's Emma, so she does that too. But
that is true.
You forget that Madeline Pryor has been in books?
I didn't say the most.
Man.
I just said she does.
I would be willing to do research to see which one has shown the most.
Would you?
I think I can take this upon myself.
God,
yeah.
Wow, that is such. Now, which of the 10 of swords would you fall on? Jen,
all 10 of them, just to find that one out. Yep.
Well, there's only one appropriate segue from that. Second Coming, Jen.
Oh gosh. Oh, more Mark Russell.
Yeah.
It's another book that we didn't know we needed in 2020.
Have you read the first issue of the follow-up series yet?
Mhm.
That came out this week?
Yep.
Still so good.
Yep.
Not an accident.
Yep.
Yeah,
Still
nope.
so good. A lot of people tried to kill this so hard, and it's so funny
Mhm.
because it's the people who really need to read this.
One of the things I absolutely love doing with this book is reading some of the comments in the back.
Ah,
And so many of the people who thought this was going to be like the worst thing that was ever written, and then
Yeah.
actually read it,
yeah.
and were like, okay, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be.
I just can't believe. Well, no, I can. I can absolutely believe because they took the dick
Yeah,
out
for
of.
sure. Right.
Yep. But anyway, I was gonna say I can't believe that DC let people who've never fucking read a comic before in their lives put the kibosh on such a great book. But I can.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just so good. It's just Jesus is a boss. He is the best, and that's
These
coming
are
out
words,
of
by the
my
way,
mouth.
Jen has never uttered before.
Never
Yeah.
uttered before. Never.
Yeah.
As a 4-year-old child, hearing in Sunday school everything that Jesus did, the words that came out of my 4-year-old mouth was, "Well, that doesn't seem like it happened." So for me to be loving a book about Jesus, and the fact that it's so biblical, so it is so keeping with Christianity.
Like
so
if
wonderful.
if you listen to and read who Jesus was and most importantly what he represented, right?
Mhm.
Like this is probably the most true to that as to how he would be in a modern setting.
Yeah, and you can be
Yeah.
mad about the depiction of God all you want to, but then you
Sure.
need to go back and read that Bible.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, you need to go read it because that's kind of who he is in the Bible.
I mean, the act break is literally, I should be less than a dick. Less of a dick in the Bible.
Which, hey, Old Testament, New Testament, there's a break in there where he says, maybe I should be less of a dick.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right. It's almost like Mark Russell has read a Bible.
It's
Weird.
almost that
Studied
way. Yeah,
religion.
or maybe like
Studied-
studied religion for a period of time. Yeah.
Published about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
I started this one
So
and
good.
then was like, I fucking love Mark Russell. There are a few people that I love as much as Mark Russell. This is too heavy for me at the moment.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. No, you're good. What do you need?
No. I need you to finish your thought because that was rude.
Fine. All I just was saying is like this. The only reason this isn't on my list is because I just didn't finish it because I was sitting there going, "This is too heavy for me right now."
I forget if it's a page or like a 2-page spread, but there is the most Mark Russell image in this book. That is the food court in heaven
Yes.
full of
Yep.
defunct fast food places.
Yep.
It's so good.
All the
Kenny
fast food
Rogers
places
Roasters.
I love
that went
it.
to heaven. Yes.
Oh
Yep.
man. I need, and I know I'm pretty sure that we've said this before, but I need Mark Russell and Magdalene Visaggio to co-write some sort of theological amazingness. I don't care what it is. Just please write it for me, and I need it. I need it.
I need them to both be at Dragon Con so I can put them on a religion and comics panel.
Yeah.
That would be so
Holy
great.
Oh my god.
This is one of my like bucket list moderator goals.
Need it.
Speaking of Mark Russell, remember how I said we would revisit Wonder Twins?
Yeah.
now is that time because it is Meg's number 4 pick.
Hey.
Yeah, there are 3 Mark Russell books that I had lined up, and this was the lightest, I guess, or the kind of humor / social commentary that didn't trigger major anxiety in me.
This book about the inherent injustice of the American carceral system.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's somehow the lightest of the, yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I know this book was on my list last year, and it's still just as great. And I think my absolute favorite thing about this is Batman and Superman's relationship in the background. It
Yes.
is the lightest that I feel like of any Batman I've ever read. And it is the Batman that I like, where it's like at one part they're fighting to save some refugees. And Superman's like, bitches, I am a refugee. What are you doing? And then, like, they fight and win, and they're like, all right, well, we got a movie tonight. What time do you want to meet up? And I'm like, I just love it so much. And I just like this idea of, like, 2 teenagers kind of grounding and helping them realize that, like, they're a bit old school in a way. And I also like learning more about the Wonder Twins' background in this. Like, that was a great addition.
Yeah, like, as someone who's never been a Wonder Twins fan, this book single-handedly turned me around on them.
Yes.
Well, it's because I think of how he treats specifically Zan and Jaina in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that Zan isn't always the smartest guy, right? But, like, there's things that he knows and is good at and smart about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's a much more realistic. Like even people that you think are not the most together, like they have things that they're competent at and good at, and yeah.
Like me. Yeah. Am dumb, do good, cook. Yes.
All of these characters are not single faceted. So yeah. Yep.
Zan, the original himbo.
Oh my god, so much, and I love it. I love it.
I
also
love
love.
I need a himbo mermaid Zan.
Oh yes. Oh.
One might say a Merzan.
Yes. He is very.
That's too close to Merkin. We need to.
It should be.
Okay. My number 4, and Jen and Brian's number 3, Superman's pal, Jimphony Olsen.
Jimphony.
I love that Jimphony.
Owner of the Daily Planet. Yes.
I will say though, Alex, I'm gonna say that you're wrong. And if there was a number 1 for me, it would be this book.
Okay, yes, it's in the number 3 slot. It's technically number 5.5 for Jin, but I'd already made that joke 3 times and wasn't gonna again.
It is my number 1 book of catchy title pages in the entire.
You are not wrong.
By far. Yeah.
So we're gonna spend a minute on this book, I can imagine, because 3 of us are talking about it.
Good.
The thing so part of my making my list was I really didn't want to put multiple books by the same, especially writer, but in general creators on my list.
Oops.
And the reason why this beat out, for instance, Adventure Man for Matt Fraction is just because the amount of planning and technical skill and execution to tell a 12-issue series over the course of an entire calendar year, like in actual release schedule, in a way that is funny and coherent, and without going back and rereading everything, lets you see at least most of the connections and threads.
And
with the sense of humor that this has, and the nods to like the entire history, and especially like Golden Silver Age history of Jimphony Olsen, is just like masterclass level work.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and I will add, and not in a time linear story.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think that came out of my mouth in a clear way. Thank you.
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
Like every issue of this is at least 3 or 4 vignettes, none of which are told linearly relative to any other in any other issue.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I totally got in the planning of this, the whole Jen's conspiracy yarn board wall of Matt Fraction planning this out. Yes.
So they Elsa Chartier does Kickstarters for art books, and there's always a bonus that is or the first two. There have been bonuses that are like some kind of commentary edition of November. The second one is Matt Fraction's notes for November.
Ugh.
I'm very excited, but there is no amount of money in my bank account that I would not pay to see Matt Fraction's notes for this book.
I know.
Oh, God.
I mean, it would probably give me the most epic migraine to end all migraines and kill me, but I would need to see it.
The other thing I want to point out, Steve Lieber did the art on this.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it was possibly the most art appropriate for the story and book of anything this year.
Yep.
Yeah. Colorist is Nathan Fairbairn. Letterer is, you guessed it, Clayton Cowles. And yeah, there's a very like simultaneously golden silver age and also timeless look to this book. I think
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Lieber is really good at that vibe, and I think Fairbairn sort of helps keep you grounded in looking contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Silver and Golden Age without being Silver and Golden Age.
Yeah.
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 It's cleaner.
Yeah. But and of course, the fraction humor in this alone is worth the purchase price. I mean,
If you're not going to read it for anything else, you have to read it for messing with Batman
Oh,
and Dexter.
and that star.
yes. Yeah, Jen, you have named the two best things about this
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
The fact that Dexter becomes Jimmy's pet
Oh
cat.
my God.
I mean, come on.
It is. Oh, I didn't know I needed it until it happened, and it was so perfect.
Yeah, like,
So,
and just scope and scale, like, everything from Jimmy hiding because there's a hit put out to him to dealing with an army mad because he's engaged to an alien thief and piloting a spaceship.
and his sister. I love his sister.
Janie.
Mhm.
Yes.
I would read, if Fraction wanted to write a Janie Olsen series, I would read that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yep, totally.
All right, Meg,
Yeah.
your number 3, Something is Killing the Children.
I'm kind of surprised by my top 5. I think it's just based on like what I had last read. Because Gideon Falls and Something is Killing the Kids should be just much higher because these books are so fucking great. I'm all caught up. I finished volume 2 of Something is Killing the Children, and it's so good. I'm glad we're still in the same town. I was a little worried that this was going to be like each volume is a new town kind of thing, but this is definitely showing the repercussions of what happened in volume 1, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, Erica Slaughter, beyond having just a perfect name, is one of my favorite characters in comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I made a note to set up a cosplay of that because I love everything about her.
Yeah.
Tynan is selling.
I know.
neck
I need to get one.
gaiters.
I need to get one. I also love. So we learned that they're part of the Order of Saint George, and I just started a new D&D group we're doing Monster of the Week. That is definitely involving Saint George's Church, and I was like, "Ha, this is fun. It's all interrelated. The world is all about me." But yeah, it's good, and the cliffhanger it ends on. It's great. I need to start catching up on the third. Maybe start actually reading this in single issues. I don't know.
Which issue does the second trade end in? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's just 5 issues. I think it's 10.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that is... I had thought while reading it, this is the end of the volume. And then I read the next issue, I'm like, I don't know how you stop after that. Like, the next issue keeps going. And
I would just say someone dies at the end of 10.
Yeah.
But also,
no, I think I know which issue.
one, I don't know
that
if
is.
someone actually died. And 2, that doesn't, I mean, that's a lot of issues. So.
Yeah. No, this was probably the book that it was hardest for me not to list higher than an honorable mention.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Shout out to James Tynan, who had at least 3 books in my top 20.
Yeah.
But who I just totally screwed over in my list.
Damn.
I banked on Meg or at least one of you listing it to make sure it made our final list and named it as an honorable mention just to help give it that little extra nudge in the math.
Yeah.
If it needed.
Like, I remember how big the first issue of this was, and it is still not disappointing.
Yeah. All right. My number 3 which I'm just basically going to name and move on because we'll be back in a minute. Ten of Swords. Big ol' X-Men crossover event. More on that in a few. Last intermission of our individual top 10s. This is the point of the show where everyone gets to pick an event to talk about. I'm going to talk about Wonder Comics, because I assumed Brian was going to say, give me those X books, or Jen was going to say, give me those X books, and no one named anything else. So it's the Alex show. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, the other one that I would talk about didn't actually get to finish, so yeah.
Yeah. There are a handful of books that would have been in this conversation today if they didn't end on January 5th, 2021.
There's a
Fucking
crap ton of
COVID.
books in next year's that are going to be like, well, shit, I don't know. We haven't looked at this since literally the first week of January.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping a lot of those are going to be, and they continued, and still are just amazing.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about Wonder Comics here.
Yeah.
One, because there were a bunch of series that fell in this imprint.
Yep.
On my short lists. We've talked about Wonder Twins. We've talked about Young Justice. This also catches Dial H, which was incredible. Joe Quinones' art in that is just next level. Naomi, which actually I think wrapped in 2019, but they've announced a Naomi TV series in development with Ava DuVernay producing. They have announced that she is in the Justice League roster coming back in March. And part of the thing that put this on my list was a tweet that Andy Corey, who was kind of the editor for this line, put out last week, at least last week as we're recording, was just how this line probably would not have had the long legs it did if Bendis had not staked so much of his own name in pushing it and bringing in creators and promoting it. Like, Young Justice is, I think, the first teen superhero book that's actually read the way I've wanted one to.
Yep. That
hasn't felt about the drama as much as it does about the connectedness, the togetherness. I feel like there's another book in this line that I am missing. Oh, Amethyst. Amethyst wrapped up this week. Yep. Like, everything in this line has been great. I know we're supposed to get more Naomi sometime in the future. It's just, I think it was a much needed sort of shot of life into DC's line. In especially the corner that I think has struggled the most in the time I've been reading comics.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that was super cool about it was it did that without so many times in the past, if a line like this came out, it would have been super easy for DC, and Marvel does it sometimes too, to separate it off into its own like universe.
Yeah.
Or continuity, right? And they didn't. They let it take place in main continuity without having to, and I mentioned this with Young Justice, right? It very organically was able to tie in and fit in without like it being a crossover event.
Well, and if I had to guess, I think that's probably part of what Andy Corey meant. I mean, not to speak for him.
Yeah.
But so much of the reason that was able to happen was Bendis was writing Superman and Action Comics and was a big get and is a big name and could take elements of this, and like there are issues of this that I almost feel like would need to be reprinted in Action Comics and vice versa.
Yeah.
To really get the whole picture for Connor.
Yep.
I think that, I mean, this was the first place we started to get answers about the multiverse post Rebirth.
Yep.
I think it's easy to sort of say, okay, yeah, this was an imprint for teen books for 18 months, but I think it's more important than that. So there we are. Anyone want to call an audible here? X-Men, Empire.
I was gonna say I can mention Empire. Empire was probably the most traditional crossover event of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think Marvel pulled it off fairly well.
Agreed.
You know, there's a lot of times where I don't necessarily feel that way, but I will just say that the story was good. The tie-ins were not, oppressive or too convoluted and complicated. And where that possibly could have been the case, they just put out one shots for it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, well done. Well done.
And I think the most important thing for me about Empire's execution is there are so many ideas that it has introduced that other things are already running with, that it feels, without being an everything will change event, it feels like really fertile ground for pushing characters and teams in new directions.
Right. Like you get the two kids in Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Guardians has been dealing with some of it, and
space politics, which also spill over into Sword.
Yep.
Alrighty, Meg, Nailbiter, Biter of Nails.
I'm so glad this is back, and I anticipate it'll probably not leave my list until it's done, because it could have come back and been terrible, like, trying to live off the old success, and it's expanding and going in a good direction, and I just can't wait to see. But honestly, this is on my list in part because the humor's still there, and there's just this one panel of them busting into the bar and the Nailbiter wearing all of the SWAT gear, holding out his fingers like he's gonna shoot gun fingers, and that has lived rent-free in my head, I think, almost all of 2020. Which is exactly why this is so important. So yeah, if you haven't read Nailbiter, go read the first 6 volumes before you start this. You're not going to understand it otherwise.
Yeah, I love this book. I am co-signing everything Meg just said. Daredevil. I mentioned we would come back to this one when I named it earlier, but this is also Brian's number 2 and shockingly Jen's number 5.5.
Weird. So weird.
Yeah, Chip Zdarsky. I want to mention the art team in this, which was Marco Cicchetto, Jorge Fornes, and Francesco Mobili.
And Victor Olazaba.
Yes.
Yep, right.
Mike Hawthorne, J.P. Meyer.
Yeah, there were
so many.
like any ongoing book. There were various, but those were the kind of the mainstays through this.
Colorists this year were Mattia Ianocco, Nolan Woodard, Marcio Menez, and again on the annual, Rochelle Rosenberg. Who lettered it? Someone want to guess who lettered it?
Your new crush.
Clayton Cowles.
Clayton Cowles.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that most of the letters were Clayton Cowles or Aditya Bidikar this year. So
they're definitely two of the big ones.
Yeah, it's a volume game with lettering.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
No, I put this number 2 on my list because I think this is 100% the best example of what a Marvel superhero book can be.
absolutely,
Yes.
100% agree.
Yeah. It is because Marvel has always been more about the character and the lives of the person, right? And this does that. Chip does it in here with Matt without it being. I don't know how to say it other than being too Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
It never revels in Matt's ability to torture himself.
Yeah, right. Like,
I think he is
does.
tortured for much
Yeah.
of this,
Uh-huh.
but it's valid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's in a way that is not oppressively so, right? It just good on every single level.
Yeah.
The story beats are all there, and that we can get good stories like his relationship that he kind of has. We get the gang war kind of in Hell's Kitchen with Fisk stepping out of the role of Kingpin, right? We get like all of these different things that contribute, and Matt being true to himself without, like I said, being so bent up on beating himself up that he, that's all that
Yeah.
you get out of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't just beat himself up. He takes action. And when that doesn't
Yeah.
work, he tries something new.
Yep.
Which is so out of character for him, and that's why I love this book so much.
Yeah.
It's been so hard for me to read any sort of Daredevil with him not just being in somebody else's book, because I hate that about him. I hate it so much, and I get so tired of it. But Chip has made me fucking love a Daredevil book, and I hate him.
And I know this is well, I guess it came out, so it's not completely outside the scope. But like even like Elektra
Oh my
in
God,
the
yeah.
last couple of issues of this,
Yeah.
just like again, not the typical characterization we see, but so damn good.
I hate them together. I hate them. I hate them so much.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Chip.
Also, we love you. Come talk to us again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do that. But also, fuck you, Chip.
Why you make me like this?
Stop making me like Elektra. Stop it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, fantastic book.
Once in high school, a group of us went to go see the Phantom of the Opera, but the ticket taker told us the wrong theater to go into.
Oh no.
So we walk in and we sit down and like the ads are still playing and we're like, it should have started by now. And then the movie starts and it's Elektra. And we got up and walked out and found the right theater.
Sorry.
I didn't know if that Phantom was
Oh
that much
no,
better, though.
I snorted.
Yep. Hey Jen.
Yeah.
I want to hear
Oh.
it for this book. Can I get it? Can we get the message?
That's a go-go book.
Yeah.
It gets the go-go book seal of approval.
There it is. I got it.
All right.
Also dead ass.
There it is. My number 2 pick, The Low Woods, which I think Meg already summarized very well and hit why it works very well. I don't have a whole lot to add there. Just clearly one of my favorite books of this year, and one of the books that I have had to like struggle the least with to decide where it goes on my list. Like it goes on. This is the first year where like my top 2 I haven't struggled with. It was actually the deciding lower stuff that was harder this
Interesting.
year. I do want to shout out Danny, the artist on this book, which was also colored by Tamara Bonvillain. And I don't know if we said earlier, it was written by Carmen Maria Machado with Steve Wan's lettering. Danny has been on several books I have loved lately, is I think one of my favorite new artists. Looking forward to more of her work. All right, that is everyone's number 2s, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, our individual number 1 picks. Brian.
The most shocking of all of these has to be me, right?
I mean, look, I am
right.
electrified by your choice.
All regular listeners, go ahead and say it out loud yourselves because we all know what it is. Yeah, it was Ten of Swords.
Yeah.
Which was, let's see, Jonathan Hickman and Benjamin Percy and Teenie Howard and Vita Ayala and Jerry Duggan and everything.
Were you like, how do I get the most people to be my number 1?
I mean, that was part of
That's
it.
so valid.
But mostly it was just, this is, hands down now, even more than Claremont, this is my favorite X time ever. This is now my favorite X book part of Marvel history ever.
Yeah, I mean, we talked with House of X and Powers of 10 last year about how it just threw out any possible version of how did we get from point A to point B to create freedom to tell whatever stories.
Yep.
And this whole line of books, like, so just editorially, kind of the decision we came to was we would talk about Ten of Swords, the 22 issue event plus the 2 prelude issues in X-Men and Excalibur,
right,
as one thing, or we could talk about individual series, their issues leading up to that. The scope and scale of pulling off the line, I think, is impressive, but the event in particular flowed consistently. It was exciting consistently. Each book felt like itself, but also felt like an equal part of the whole. The cast of the story, like every member of it got time to shine.
Mm-hmm. Phil Noto doing art for this just by itself is, for me, is the price of admission. But
yeah,
and then I will point out, if nothing else, just the dinner episode before the event starts alone probably would have put it on my top 10.
I mean, this is the event that made me like Scott Summers,
Yeah.
and in which Apocalypse made me cry.
Oh shit.
Uh-huh. It is like, if you ask what is the best series, like single book superhero thing I could read from 2020, it would be Ten of Swords. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, the same thing I said, years ago about the Joker War, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is,
War of Joke and
War of
Riddles.
Jokes and Riddles, right? Yeah. Just like it is the best example of, a single cohesive story that you can get.
Yeah.
That is traditional superhero stuff.
Jen and Meg.
Oh?
Once and Future.
Girl.
I like that we're on the same wavelength so much this year. It's very nice.
Me too.
I love badass grandmothers. Like, it's like a running joke on the internet of like, why do all these young dudes have to get to do all the questing and stuff like that? And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll give you a badass grandmother, and that's Once and Future.
Oh my god.
She's totally friends with horticulture, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just
Maybe not friends, but frenemies?
Probably
fair enough.
frenemies,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's probably more appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am behind on it still, but the twists and turns of Volume 1 was enough for me to be like, yeah, okay, I'm all in.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything about this book, all of the relationships, including when they're bad, are so I don't know, they're like compelling while also being kind of hilarious and terrifying.
I love this whole concept of King Arthur being evil and needing to destroy him, and also the pure and lightness that is Duncan. Like,
Duncan is so good.
must be protected at all costs.
Yes. I love that, like, myths are real, but only if you think they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not the ones you think they are, but they are also the ones you think they are. And I'm very confused, but it's good.
Without spoiling it, there is an amazing moment in the issue that came out this week that kind of gets into that you just expressed. All right, well, this myth can play this way, I guess. It's never been done before, but this myth is soft in that it has so many different versions and retellings, and its protagonist has been so many things that, sure, fuck it.
Why
this
not?
person can be the protagonist too.
Yeah.
So, is it Batman or is it what's her name from Jean Grey? Is that who we're talking about here? Is that who's going to show up in Once and Future? That was a really bad joke. I'm sorry. It clearly didn't go over well. I was just thinking of a book I read where poor Jean Grey.
Poor Jean Grey is always.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a character whose main story beat was defined by guys writing female trauma in the 1980s.
Yes.
But I love the fact that, like, I guess she put herself in a nursing home just to kind of give her grandson some space. And then she's like, oh yeah, I hunt vampires. And he's like, I'm sorry, what? You did what? And then she's both like super cares for him, but also like fucking shoots his ear. Cause like, we gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't fight me. I will shoot you.
She is tough love granny, and I love it.
Tough love, Granny.
And then there's a character and something happens that I won't spoil, but she's like, I wouldn't have shot her. And I'm like, I just love it so much.
The evidence would prove the contrary,
Exactly.
Grandma.
I was gonna say, unless she needed shooting, then I would.
Well, Duncan's like, I mean, of course she shot me, but it'd be rude to shoot strangers. And I'm just like, that is the most British thing I think I've ever heard in my life.
That is the most family trauma thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
Oh no, they'll hurt me all they want, but they're
You're
not
good.
gonna hurt you because they don't know you.
That's rude.
Yeah. It's not rude if it's family.
Right.
Exactly.
Ugh.
This book is amazing, and I love it.
Yes.
All right, my number one pick. This is another one of those years where, unintentionally, perhaps pretentiously, I've picked a book that no one else has read.
So pretentiously.
This is an original graphic novel published late in October. Too late for us to have covered in the Spooktacular. By Image. It is written by Ram V, who is probably, like, pound for pound published the most of my favorite stuff this year. Artist is Anand Radhakrishna, colorist is John Pearson, and letterer is Aditya Bidikar. Blue and Green. This is a story about a man whose mother has just committed suicide. This is also a book very much about family trauma and generational trauma.
Welcome to 2020.
Yeah. He is a musician and teacher. And in going through like his mother's office as his sister is packing it up when he's home for the funeral, and he hasn't been home in forever because their relationship was fraught, his and his mother's, he finds this picture of this man he's never seen before and wants to get answers. And that's when a demon shows up and starts kind of taunting him. And eventually he'll go on like to make a deal with this demon, and that's sort of narratively what this is about, like the deals we make with demons and how we handle generational trauma. And like kind of the final takeaway of this is also the question of, do we mistake trauma for art and inspiration, or are they really connected? And I think it wants us to question that for sure. And I think there's an implication of it is cruel to artists to demand their trauma. But one of the things that Ram V has talked about in interviews about this specifically in his work in general is he doesn't like to give the answers to those questions. He wants to kind of leave the question out there. The art is absolutely gorgeous. It is sketchy and vividly colored and sometimes beautiful and sometimes horrifying and sometimes both. It is technically proficient. There is a double-page spread where the main character is playing a song and he and another character, panel by panel in rows, are laid out so that their heads are the bass line of the song he's playing. And this entire comic was written as an improvisation. The way that Ram V and Anand Radhakrishna worked is they would call each other once a day and talk about the next page of this book. And Ram would not write a page until he saw the previous day's art or the previous page's art. And the entire process, which took, I think they said in an interview, 1.5 years, the entire process was reacting and moving on. There was no going back and making changes. As an experiment, it should like barely work, and I think it speaks to just the quality of the relationship between the team. This is not their first book together, but it is, I think, shocking that it was built a page at a time because of just how beautiful and coherent and like intentional everything in it is. So it is my number one pick, sort of unwaveringly this year, which is new for me. I cannot recommend it enough. Now, if you are listening, we ourselves, here as we record, are going to take a brief intermission, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back. We have deliberated over our combined list, which is to say, taken the numbers and sorted out any ties.
And after Jen beat everybody up, well, she got her way. No, I'm kidding.
You darn tootin'.
With no further ado, the Panelology Top 10 Favorite Comics of 2020. Sharing the 10 spot, we have Suicide Squad and Something is Killing the Children.
Wait, is the Something Killing the Children Suicide Squad?
Possibly.
Okay.
No children were harmed in the suicide of this squad.
Jesus.
I would love to see Erica Slaughter and Harley Quinn
Oh my god.
in the same.
Yes.
Just the amount of frustration that Erica would have dealing with her is beautiful.
Yes, cosign. Number 9, which I feel like is Tim influencing us in spirit.
Wait, is it Swamp Thing?
Folklords.
I mean, if Tim was here, like, this would probably actually be higher up in the list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
He, like, I can't tell you the number of books he has of mine and comics that I've told. Gideon Falls being one of them. And he let me borrow this and literally within 12 hours was like, have you read it? Have you read it? Have you? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
You don't get to say that to me.
Exactly. Even if he was right, it doesn't matter.
It's not the point.
No.
Coming in at number 8, A Basket Full of Heads.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
partridge in a pear tree.
Lizzie Borden, Eat Your Heart Out.
Yeah, she better than you.
Number 7, Adventure Man.
Oh, so happy. so happy.
Of all things on this list, like, this might be the one that I am just the most excited to see more of.
Yeah, it's everything about this is good.
If you've read the back matter, you kind of know sort of some, at least conceptually, some things that are coming.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait. And I won't say more than that. Wonder Twins is number 6.
So good.
I mean, yeah, the how we all talked about it shouldn't surprise anybody.
Yeah.
Shows up here.
Coming in at number 5, we have The Low, Low Woods.
Another good horror. Love it.
Once and Future is our number 4.
Yeah.
This is one that, like, I didn't mention it when you talked about it, but like, I have all of these, and I it's another one of those that it is. I don't know why I'm not caught up.
Brian.
I mean, like,
it is just, it's one of the, like, and I can tell you some of the things, and this is actually one of them. Like, at some point, I got a couple of issues behind, and I'll share a little behind the scenes here. Generally, when I'm looking at books, I'm like, okay, if I only have to read one issue to be completely caught up for this week and can talk about it, I'll choose that one.
Oh, yeah.
And so once I get like 2 behind, I'm like, well, shit. And so now I'm like 8 behind on this.
I think
and
we
I'm like,
all
okay.
make the sausage the same way,
yeah, I was
Brian.
going to say that
Yeah, that's
influenced how I picked my
Except
top 10.
maybe Alex.
yeah.
It's because Alex is a monster.
He's like, I only have to read 10 to get caught up on this one.
I'll
Yeah,
do
I'm
it.
gonna
I'll
do it.
I
Yeah.
will follow that sword.
Yes. So now I'm like 8 behind on this, and I'm like, well, shit. Now this just can't ever get
No.
Forever in Trade.
exactly.
Number 3, Ten of Swords.
Yoo-hoo. Yeah.
Which,
So happy this ended up top 3.
well, and I think this makes sense. Like, one of the things we name, one, House of X and Powers of 10
Oh,
placed very high last year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the things sort of collectively we all said we were the most excited about this year was X-Men. And this, like, shows sort of the promise of this X-Men office writer's room thing
Yep.
that they're doing.
This whole department. Yeah. Yep.
Number 2, somehow alone at the top is Matt Murdock. Daredevil, Forever Alone.
Yeah. I was gonna say the fact that Matt Murdock's alone is no surprise, but
Oh.
oh,
Bonus points to Jen, who was the only one of us smart enough last year to include this on her top 10.
Is that how everybody else got
I
in
just
on it?
knew. I just knew.
oh my God. Yeah.
And finally, the number 1 spot,
Ow.
Jimphony Olsen, Superman's pal.
Now, okay. Let's be fair. Even knowing that it was Matt Fraction writing,
Mm-hmm.
when this very first got announced, could you ever have thought that it would be the number 1 pick?
Yes.
I don't know that I would have guessed that it would wind up our number 1.
Right.
It does not surprise me entirely that it has. I definitely would have said, oh no, it's got a good shot at being in our top 10.
Right. But like top of the list, I would not have thought that, but yet totally happy
Now,
with it.
I think if you let me have the 8-page teaser that came in that
Yep.
Superman annual or one shot or whatever that was
Yes.
our first taste.
Yep.
That would have been enough to make me say,
As soon as that happened, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be something else.
Jimmy Olsen wakes up in bed married to an alien in Gorilla City with a cat puking everywhere.
This is the only book, like, I haven't had a lot of time to read a bunch of comics since I stopped podcasting with you guys every week. This is the only book that I have, like, consistently read over and over and over again because it just makes me happy.
It is.
If I need a pick-me-up, it just picks me right the fuck up.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think, the title is so ridiculously appropriate because you 100% understand why Clark has Jimmy as his best friend, because
Yeah.
it's just got to keep him happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I am very happy with this list. In fact, Jen, I think you commented while we were deliberating, this is probably the least contentious top 10 for each of us ever.
Yeah, normally we
Yeah.
have a little duke it out battle about some things. But this year we're just like, no, yeah, that fits.
Yeah, we're all happy.
All right. Let's talk about some stuff we're looking forward to in 2021.
Oh.
Our taste of upcoming things.
Yes.
The thing that I think shows up on both Brian's and my list.
Yeah.
Future State and Beyond. I'm throwing in that and Beyond for myself.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I thought about saying that too. I tried to think about like what title specifically, right? I was most interested in finding out where they went, But
Yeah.
then that was kind of hard to do. So I'm super happy with the and beyond.
Yeah. So here is I think what I want to leave this one at. Go back if you haven't and listen to our solicitations episode on Future State. We did a standalone episode on it. We took about an hour talking about everything in this line. And the creative teams are exciting.
Yep.
The ideas at play are exciting. And this has an energy that, and we know this now. This is the thing we know now that we only speculated at then. This has creative teams and energy that's going to go into the series that continue in March and that start in March. And this truly is like a glimpse of things that could or will be.
Yeah.
I think in a more substantive way than other, like, 5 years later, 1 year later books have been. We're also going to do a standalone solicitations episode to talk about the stuff that is coming out in March's solicitations. And Jen is going to join us for that.
Yeah.
One of those things, though, Jen,
Yeah.
is Batman Urban Legends, which contains a backup written by Chip Zdarsky about whom?
About Batman and the Red Hood. Chip is writing Batman. We dropped it first forever ago when we had Chip on. Just want you to know that. He wasn't actually writing Batman then, but he said he wanted to so bad.
It's The Secret.
He did.
Oh no! It was totally us that caused this, right? No,
it's our superpower.
Yeah, we secreted it.
Amazing.
You guys, we secreted it for him. Beautiful. But yeah, I can't wait to read Chip writing Batman because it's going to be so good, and also reading him writing Jason Todd. I can't fucking wait. I cannot fucking wait.
Especially after what we just talked about with what he did with Matt.
Yeah. Exactly. That is exactly why. Because of Daredevil, Red Hood. I'm in.
Chip simultaneously writing both colors of Batman.
Now I need a crossover.
Camp whatever.
So while everybody's going to have to wait for 2021 for this, I already have a copy of it and I cannot wait to read this. It is Chris Grind, new creator owned. There's a word for this and I'm totally blanking on. Okay.
Creator owned.
Yeah. Creator owned is it. You got it.
Good. That he is working, alternating Animorphs with. When we read his Animorph books, Tim and I actually went through his other books and they're phenomenal. And I'm very excited. The whole concept is like this girl who is going to camp and doesn't want to, and also there's a mystery and maybe vampires or, some other creatures around. So like maybe it is actually worth the time. So I am really excited for this one. Yeah. And I guess also Animorphs 2 comes out next fall. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Jen, hit me with those stray dogs.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I know that as soon as you guys saw the solicitations, you were like, "Oh, Jen will be reading this."
Yep. And were we wrong?
So just no. Just the description, like the first line of the description is Lady and the Tramp meets Silence of the Lambs.
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't know. Don't care.
No,
Gonna read
I'll
it.
read it. Yeah.
I'm done. I'm in it. I'm gonna have my cozy blanket for scariness and my Kleenex for when puppies die. Because it's gonna happen. I really have to ready myself for that. Because it's gonna happen. But I am so excited for this book.
Jen, have you seen the variant cover for this?
With the Silence of the Lambs movie poster? Yeah.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I need that as a poster in my house somewhere. Anywhere. In every room, maybe. Who knows? I need it.
My second thing I am looking forward to. Vault has been teasing 2021 creative teams. I think I've said before, like, going back to an old Marvel, like, all new Marvel Now campaign, there was this period of time where they wouldn't name what the book was, but would name the creative teams.
Yeah.
And I always prefer that to, we're going to name the book, but not the creative team. That's basically what Vault has been doing.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a new Cy Spurrier book coming up.
Ooh.
They've got the new book from Ram V and Anand Radhakrishna, the team behind Blue and Green, which I know nothing about it, but that they're writing it. I would bet money that it shows up on my list next year. They've got a new Peter Milligan book. I'm sure they'll probably be tweeting out more of these teasers in the time between when we record this and when it airs. But Vault puts out, I think, some of the most consistently good and imaginative stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait for more. Teen Titans and Titans, Brian.
Yeah, so this concept, and we've talked about it after Future State, of the team, and I don't know exactly how they're going to title this and put it out and all of this, but essentially the Teen Titans and the from Donna Troy and Gar to the new Young Justice folks, like all of this, where they're setting up essentially like an academy to train young heroes, has me very excited to see what they're going to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most excited I've been for, that kind of, I guess you can call it a line, right? Teen Titans,
Yeah.
Young Justice, whatever, that I have been in a while. Yeah.
Meg.
Yes.
You have Sabrina 2.
So yeah, Sabrina Volume 2 by Kelly Thompson will finish, and I'm hoping is continuing after that. I can't imagine it's not. This seems to be doing pretty well.
Sweet.
But I love how Kelly Thompson does Sabrina, and I'm very excited to grab Volume 2, which is almost all in Comixology, but I just had to throw it out there because I feel like if I talk about it more, hopefully there will be more.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, we like Kelly Thompson doing pretty much anything, so yeah.
This is also true, yes.
Yeah.
Jen and Brian, I'm going to kind of throw you together here.
Mm-hmm.
Jen started with the specific Children of the Atom.
Yeah.
And Brian has more generally what we know as being called Reign of X, the X-Men line.
Yep. I mean, I don't have to say a whole lot. You guys, everybody that listens to this knows how I feel about the X books right now, and the fact I don't see them slowing down.
Yeah, I think
I just see more goodness.
I think we could have easily just said more X books.
That's exactly my little thing was all the X books.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this one because the tagline that I read was, "Since when do the X-Men have sidekicks?"
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Also Vita Ayala.
Yeah, also Vita Ayala.
Right.
Need it.
So yeah.
Need it.
All of it.
I'm going to shout out a pair of things that we've talked about the first issues of. Homesick Pilots.
Yes.
Which, if you have not read, you need to.
Oh my God, Jen, you have to pick this book up immediately.
Yeah, I was about to say that felt very pointed.
That was also pointed at Meg.
Yeah.
Like everybody here, not just Jen, not just Meg. Everybody has to pick this book up and read it.
Yeah. And the picture of everything else, which comes out. Well, it will have just come out as this episode airs.
Is that the Dorian Grayish one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What?
Okay.
We got preview copy.
Yeah.
And talked about it briefly a couple weeks ago. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is watercolor and about art and classism and all of those things, and just like pretty Victorian horror.
Nice.
That's my degree, basically. Cool.
Any other 2021 stuff that comes to mind before we...
I threw in late. I texted you this morning. Extraordinary by V.E. Schwab. And I'm only adding this to the list because I feel like if you like comics, you would actually like this series. The books are vicious and I'm totally blanking on what the second one is called.
Victorious?
Maybe? I don't feel like that's right though. But this is essentially, she went, what if just supervillains, no good guys? Who do you like then? And the question is, you still love both boys. And there's, I think, a 5-year gap between the books. Villainous? I don't remember what the second one's called. I'm totally blanking. I have like 4 copies of Vicious with all different title or covers, and then just one of the sequel. But this takes place in the 10 years or the 5 years between. So essentially, like, these guys in college for their dissertation decided we're gonna make superheroes. They call them extraordinaries, and they figure out the secret formula, quote unquote, for making superheroes, and it turns them both into supervillains that fight against each other. So, like, I don't know, if you read comics and superhero comics, these are probably two novels that you would really, really enjoy.
I have the audiobook for the first one sitting, waiting for me to listen to it on your recommendation.
Yes, highly, highly recommend. And then, yeah, this is just like the series that goes in between the two novels. So very excited for this to come out.
Cool. And last but not least, some other non-comic stuff from 2020 that we've all loved. I'm going to go first here because I have spent most of this year yelling about this book. Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia.
Yes, the only reason
I don't think I heard you
no,
talk about
not
this
at all. Definitely not. I definitely didn't text you and be like, you need to fucking read this book, Meg.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I panicked for half a second, remembering that I didn't put it on my list, and I was like, why didn't I put it on my list? Oh, no, because Alex. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had read Silvia Moreno Garcia's previous book before I read this, and talk about writing totally different tones, totally different genres, all kind of under the science fiction fantasy umbrella. I did not expect this to be as horror as it was.
That's my favorite thing about this.
Certainly not as eldritch.
Yeah.
Like especially like the first half of this kind of takes its time and builds this world and lets you get to know all these characters. And Noemi Tabawada is amazing, the main character.
The best main character ever.
Another writer who knows how to name their characters, Noemi Tabawada, and in Gods of Light and Shadow, Cassiopeia Toon. And then it just gets fucking weird, man.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
This book was a book of the month choice. And one of my favorite things is in social media groups to see these people buy this book. Even though the title kind of tells you like, hey, this is not light and fluffy. But the cover's so pretty, and I guess they expect like a suspense or quick kind of like light horror almost. And the number of people that are like, don't, it's so much darker. And the only reason I haven't started this is because like every time I open it, I've read the first chapter and I'm like, this is going to require more brain power than I currently have. So hopefully before the end of 2020, I will have this done.
Oh, it's so good.
Cool.
Favorite. It's in my top 3 now.
Yeah.
Favorite books.
And we're getting a TV adaptation.
Yes.
Okay.
I've been fan
It's
casting
gonna be
the
so
shit out of this.
All right. Jen, mostly to just brag, wants to talk about Wonder Woman 1984.
I do. I got to go. So I masked up and it was socially distanced, but I did go out in public to see Wonder Woman 1984 in theaters for the premiere. And it is wonderful. It's wonderful. I hate loving Steve Trevor. I hate it. But I do.
Look, 2020 has already made me love Scott Summers. I can't handle also liking
That's
Steve
true.
Trevor.
Well, to be fair, I like Chris
Right,
Pine. I just don't know that.
Right.
Yeah, right.
It's Chris Pine. You can't
Yeah.
fucking hate him. It's Chris Pine. It's Chris Pine being Chris Pine as Steve Trevor. It's so
That's fair.
good.
This movie
That's
is
fair.
my Christmas plans.
Yeah, it should be. It absolutely
Same.
should be.
Yeah.
I think that if you love hope, you're gonna love this movie. Pedro Pascal is amazing. I don't know how he does it. He's just great. And of course, Gal Gadot is spectacular, and surprisingly for me, because I did not see her in this kind of role in my brain. I just didn't, even though she's wanted to do something like this for her entire career. Kristen Wiig knocks it out of the park.
I am so
Oh.
glad to hear that, because that is the piece of casting that I think I have been most excited about.
Me too.
And so many people have been like, really?
Bonkers. She's so good. But she's good in everything.
To be fair, like I was gonna say, to be fair, everything I have ever seen her in prior to this, even though maybe it was a bit more limited in scope, she has been amazing at. So
Yeah.
All right. Brian, I just have Phineas and Ferb question mark. I know you had not really come up with a list, and we briefly talked about you having rewatched all of it.
I did literally. So just as kind of one of the things I rewatched all of Phineas and Ferb. The only thing I have not seen is the movie they released this year, which is kind of a little odd, but just because that is the last thing I have left. I watched from beginning all the way through, and the best way I can describe that show, if you have never seen it, is that show has absolutely no right to be as good as it is.
It's true.
And yet it is. It has one of my favorite, probably single episodes I have ever seen on a animated show. And there's a episode where basically it's like a caveman episode where there is no words spoken in it until like the last 15-20 seconds of the show, and yet you understand every single thing that is going on.
And that is the best episode of the entire series.
It is so good. It is so good.
Meg,
Yes.
Dash and Lily.
Dash and Lily. If you like Christmas movies, Christmas TV shows and things, it is probably the cutest thing I've ever seen. Christmas-wise, it's 6 episodes. It's on Netflix. It takes place in New York, so that added bonus of like the magic of New York at Christmas, and it is. I've watched it like 3 times. It's a delight. It's also a book series. I've read the first 2. I just got the 3rd. So, I don't know. If you like light Christmas stuff that has romance but isn't like woman pulling up her business job to go help with ranch, you'll really enjoy it. I'm also really quick going to shout out 2 TikTokers that have basically helped me get through the second half of this year.
1, 2, TikTok stand before you.
Oh, good God. The first one is, I just forgot their name. Their name is Kyle. I will totally find and drop the username. They unironically love Twilight, and I love all of their commentary on Twilight, and also does these little skits of like Twilight sleepovers, and like the fact that Leah and Angela should be OTP soulmates, and like mind blown. So fucking
One
wonderful.
of my favorite TikTokers, by the way.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm probably going to name another one that is also one of your favorites, Red Panda.
Oh, yes, I was going to add that to my list. I love him.
Yes. I went back through actually all of his old stuff too, because I was just so curious what he was doing prior to. So what he does is he started off talking about Batman and how Batman runs through these orphans, and it was just fucking hilarious. But also is incredibly knowledgeable about comics and things, and puts it very quickly and concise, and so that like people like me who doesn't really know a ton about the DC world because I just don't care, finds interesting facts and things. And like the one I sent last night was, what did I send you, Alex? It was Gwenpool versus
Superboy Prime.
Yes.
So you're getting these from both sides, Alex.
I am. The great thing is, you two have been good at sending me different selections of them.
That's good.
Yeah, Alex mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago. He's like, "I'm getting these from both Jen and Meg now."
But they're so good.
I'd apologize, but
No,
they're
don't
so
apologize. Keep
good.
them coming.
No, he was not complaining about it. He was just commenting about it. Yeah.
It was like, what happens if they were to meet? And essentially it was okay boomer, and which just summed up 2020 so great. And lastly, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out there online games, specifically Among Us and all 7 versions of Jackbox.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, those have been keeping 2020 afloat.
Probably in some ways have saved my life this year. So
My next piece of 2020 media, much gentler than the first, The Owl House.
Oh my God, you did watch it finally.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Jen, have you gotten in on this yet?
I have not. It's
Okay.
on my list of things to do.
I love this show so much. I think I've watched it all the way through twice this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Wendy
Luce-
Malick as Edna is
Yes, I was going to say, Luce is a great protagonist. Wendy Malick is one of the most underrated actresses in history.
hands down.
Her performance is amazing.
And
She's
then-
the owl lady.
She is. And then the other character that shocked the hell out of me, and I absolutely love how they handled her, was oh damn it, she kind of starts off and you think she's gonna be the mean girl.
Amity.
Amity, yes. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Like, spoilers, but At the very least, they're doing some enemies to friends here.
Yeah. Yep.
Amity is amazing and might be my favorite character.
Very possibly, yes. Yeah. Although King's pretty good too.
King is also good. King, voiced by Alex Hirsch, creator and one of the stars of Gravity Falls. Yeah, I love this show. The Grom is, I think, like an amazing turning point for this series. I am super excited to see more of what comes after Grom. Just like the whole tale of season 2, I think builds momentum so well.
I can't wait.
Jen, the ADD podcast and potential spinoff.
Yeah. So ADD is almost daily discourse. I used to do occasional guest spots on a show called Breaking the Panel. It's a couple of those guys and a couple of other guys. And it, at its heart, it's just 4 guys bringing a different topic every week and talking about whatever they want to and being vulnerable and just really being comfortable with each other and talking about like messy breakups and worst Christmas gifts and things like that. And it's just so fun. They're just so fun. And it's nice to hear 4 men being so open and honest with each other.
Awesome.
Like, I really enjoy that. And they have potentially a sister show coming out called, well, I don't know if I can tell you about that, but potentially they have a sister show coming out in January. If everything goes as planned. And I think it's going to be really nice to hear, that level of honesty and openness from two very different sets of people.
Cool.
Awesome. Brian, have you thought of any other 2020 things to mention here? I'll cut this if not.
Word. No, I know I'm missing stuff, but yeah.
That's cool. All right. My third thing is, I think, on paper, the least on-brand thing for me.
I lied. I do have another one. But go ahead.
Okay.
You want me to do it now?
You want to do it now, or you want to do it?
It's Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beast.
Cool.
Oh my God! What Jen? Another one that if you haven't seen, you'll absolutely love that one.
Okay.
Yes, it's so good, so good. Netflix, do it.
My sister has been on me for months to watch this. I watched the first episode and then was like, "You need to watch this."
Yeah.
And then she's watched all of it and has been like, "Have you watched any more yet?" I'm like, "No, because I'm a monster."
You are.
It's like me getting you caught up on Hello from the Magic Tavern and then stopping.
And not one of the good Wonder Beast monsters either.
No. My soundtrack is not nearly that good.
Oh, yes.
All right. My third thing, perhaps the least on-brand possible thing, at least on paper, for me to bring, is an Apple TV Plus series called Ted Lasso. Brian, you seem to know what this is. Have you watched this?
It's not what I thought you were going to say, so nope.
Oh.
I have not.
Okay.
Oh, you thought he was going to say the Emily Dickinson one?
Mm-hmm.
I do like Dickinson. I am way behind on it. I do like Dickinson and need to catch up before season 2. But no, that would be more on brand for me than this. Ted Lasso is a show about an American football coach hired to coach an English soccer team.
Yeah, I cannot imagine these words coming out of your mouth. So, hey, 2020, what have you done?
Yeah, like, we're not going to talk about how just utterly bizarre my media choices for this year seem on paper. But here is why I love it. Making this even more confusing coming from me, Ted Lasso is played by Jason Sudeikis. And this character is the least bitter, least toxic dude I have ever seen on TV. He is genuinely a nice person who wants the best for everyone and believes in the things people say and believes in people and is more concerned with making his players better people than a better team. Like, he believes if I do one, the other will follow.
So it's a complete break from Jason Sudeikis' normal character, too.
Yes.
Okay.
His assistant coach, who has this big beard and who is named Coach Beard, is like great comedic yes man for the most part. The two of them will just go on long strings of puns and jokes about musical theater and hello, yes, it makes sense for me again now, right?
Okay, all right, yeah.
And the thing you learn is he has been hired because the new owner of the team who got the team in her divorce from her husband who was cheating on her with 20-something-year-old TV or 20-something-year-old models and actresses, who in an episode is actually played by Giles from Buffy. She wants to just absolutely destroy the team because it's the one thing he actually cared about, and has hired Ted Lasso because she thinks he's the least competent, least qualified person to do it.
Aww.
Juno Temple plays a supporting character named Keely, who is just like, every time she's on screen, she's just this amazing like burst of energy. Everything about the show is great. It will make you cry at times, not gonna lie, but could not recommend it more. It's also produced by Bill Lawrence, who did Scrubs. Zach Braff directs the second episode, and somehow it's still earnest. I don't understand anything about the show or why I like it, but I'm so here for more.
Okay.
Jen.
Yeah.
Devs.
So the complete opposite of your show. This show, I don't remember if it came out in 2020. Yeah, it had to have.
It did.
It had to have.
I don't know how I haven't seen it yet.
It's so good. It's in like the same vein, I would say, as Mr. Robot. Making you question reality, weird time skips, things are fucked up. Basically, a big group of developers, big group of programmers create an algorithm that predicts the future. But in the end, you don't really know if it's predicting the future or if you're in the but dude, that's the beginning of it, okay? That's like, that's just how things are when it starts out. You don't know. You don't know what the fuck is going on, but they know what's going on, but maybe they don't know what's going on. Is kind of the theme of the things that I like this year. Maybe nobody knows what's going on. Huh.
That sounds right.
It is beautifully acted. Nick Offerman plays a role that I never would have seen him in, and it's wonderful. And also, this show is terrifying. If you think that, if you're one of the few people who thinks that it's even a possibility that we are just in a program, we're in the simulation, this show will fuck you up. It will fuck you up big. It's so good. Awesome. And I hate that we're ending on this will fuck you up instead of hope and joy and love, but
Brian, pull something out of the air.
To be fair, what's more on brand for us? Let me.
I knew I should have had you go before I did Ted Lasso.
I know. We should have ended on Wonder Woman.
Kibo in the Age of the Wonder Beast. I'll say it again.
So cute, so wonderful.
Gotta throw this one out there. I may cut this. This one's narrow casting to Jen. There is a recurring character who is a journalist named Trent Krim of The Independent, played by James Lance from No Heroics.
Oh no.
Oh boy.
Oh, I'm gonna go watch it right now. I have to go sign up for Apple TV right now. We have to quit.
Well, good news. That is it. That is everything. We are done. We have talked about 38 different comic series and a bunch of other non-comics things. I'm going to spare us all the usual outro. Instead, take care of yourselves, everyone, over the last few days of 2020.
You got this.
You got this. You can make it. You can do it. That thing Jen said about hope, look, that we should have ended on that note. That's really it.
That's the one.
If you're here in 2021, I'll be here too.
Yep. Well, we're all gonna make it.
Yeah.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Meg.
Now go read the year's best comics.